So let's get started on the exciting topic of decluttering. So, you know, I've heard this, and I'm going to ask our expert here. And just to share, let me make sure we introduce ourselves, got all flustered through this process. So I'm Beckyanne Theriot. I'm the Vice President of Business Development and Marketing here at Charles E. Smith Life Community. And I'm going to let her go ahead and introduce herself and what company you're from.
Beckyanne Theriot, AFCM Services, also known as a First Class Move.
Awesome. So this is our expert on what a lot of people call decluttering, but there's a different term that you guys use called life sizing. Can you tell me a little, what's the difference?
There's a huge difference. Decluttering basically is the basic procedure of just whittling things down.
Okay.
Okay.
And sometimes it's tough for us all, isn't it? Whew.
Yes. And life sizing, I decided would be a better term because with all the things in our life that are negative, I thought, let's put a new twist on it, a positive, you know?
Right.
And when you're talking about life sizing, if you're a professional working with an individual, you want to try to make it as positive as it possibly can be. And you're not looking at just the stuff and getting rid of the stuff. You're looking and learning who they are, assessing where they're transitioning to. So it's getting to know the individual and then what are the things that are going to possibly go with them. Life sizing.
I like that. So I think about that, and we'll probably hit it a little bit later here. But, you know, one of the things that I think about is, I think we all have the opportunity to life size, don't we? So I have a son who's graduating from high school in 2 weeks, so I can't talk about that too much or I'll get a little teary while we're sitting here talking. My daughter's already in college, so thinking about my own self, life sizing.
You're life sizing with children as well.
Yeah. So you kind of go small, sometimes then you go big, sometimes you go medium, then you go, so it really hits and impacts everybody, right?
Very much so. And I think what's really key here is it's not easy to work with anybody else in this process of transitioning. Like they say, you know, walk in somebody else's shoes so you know. We do this daily, but what I wanted to share with you is when you deal with a certain age group, that cohort that we work with are like the silent generation. They have accumulated so much in their life, whether they wanted to or not, and it's very emotional, it's very physical, and it can be very financial to make that transition, because typically they're going to a smaller place and they don't want to lug everything with them.
Right. And so I'm sure many of you out there, because we have many of our potential prospects who are looking at senior living, can understand exactly what you're saying and sharing with us. Right. So tell me a little bit about your organization and what is it that you do? Maybe what makes you a little bit different than maybe just a general, maybe somebody who comes in and kind of helps you pack up?
Oh my goodness, big difference. AFCM is a full service, woman-owned company. We handle every aspect of someone's move. So, for example, when I do a consultation with somebody, they may say, oh, I just need you to pack this up. I've already decided what I want to take with me. I just want you to get it to that location. That's a basic move.
Okay.
Traditional movers, that's what they do. You tell them what you want moved, and they get it there. With us, it's first and foremost getting to know who this person is, finding out where they're going to go, and sometimes why they're going. And then you start the organizational phase, trying to determine what's going to make up their new home. Because for us, it's about recreating a home for somebody and what goes in that new home. Sometimes that'll take hours, days, weeks, months. We go at their pace. The organizational is really important because that's what determines everything else that will follow. So once everything has been organized, it's now categorized into these different piles. And you probably all have heard that if you take 4 boxes, if you're doing this, you choose to do this yourself, is to have a box for the things that mean the most to you, that you want to keep, that are special, memories, for example, okay? You'll have a box that you can say, well, gee, I know some of my friends and my family want this. And then the third box would be the things that you know you like, the family likes, but nobody really wants it at this point, so we can sell it. We can sell those things. And that's part of the liquidation phase. And then last, and probably the most difficult for people, is to see it go to charity or landfill. But we do try really hard to recycle everything and give everything the attention that it needs.
So that's what a full service is. It's that whole beginning of, I'm really looking to make a transition. I'm on this journey and this is my next phase of life.
Yes.
And so how do I even start? Because many, I mean, I was sharing with you a story before. My best girlfriend, her dad went through this same thing, 4-bedroom home he was living in, wasn't even using most of the space. But then really, how do we get to the point of going through all those items? And it's tough sometimes. I think it's tough for us as, I would say, adult daughters, because I also have parents that we're having these same types of conversations. And that can be difficult at times. So tell me about what's your recommendation on having family involved? Like, how does that work? And I'm sure that's probably a double-edged sword or sometimes very different depending on the situation.
Yeah. I do want to share with all of you out there that I think it's wonderful that you have friends and family who want to be a part of this transition you're making, and generally speaking, people are very kind and want to be of assistance and help. I will tell you, it does cost to hire a company to help. But with all the years of experience that I have and seeing how it actually pans out with family and friends helping versus a professional, it is so much actually easier to go with a professional because friends know you. They start to see things that also bring memories. They're watching and caring about you as you're going through this process. It is not easy for a friend or a family to do the categorization. Now, it's good for the family and friend to help you dispose or get things maybe out to a junk hauler, let's say. But they don't do it enough to know the different contractors that are out there that are available, especially in the area that this individual may live or have a home. And, you know, that's key, is to have players or people in your village that you can rely on, because they're an extension of who, in our case, of who we are. And it really takes a team to get it done, not quickly, but most efficiently.
So let me ask you this. If you came in, I said, you know what, we met, we did a consultation, and I know that I need some help to get through. But I got a big house, and I got a lot of stuff, right? where do I start? How do I start? What are your recommendations of, you're not with me maybe today, but I really need to kind of start this train rolling down that track. Where do you begin?
You know, there are a lot of people out there that just, this is just way too much work, you know, I'm gonna just do it. And you know, in years past, people just did it. There was no move management company.
Right.
There was no organizers, daughters, sons, neighbors, church people, everybody came to help move so-and-so, Aunt B or Uncle, whoever. Once we consult with you, and it's usually me, I have a pretty good idea who you are, where you're going and why. And I put a move manager, in my company they're called lifestyle transition managers because of the training that they go through because of my background in gerontology and nursing. Once that move manager or lifestyle transition manager meets you, the details are discussed. And so a system is put into place so that you know, for example, what, my hair is getting caught. You know, I think what to expect, you know, which room, you know, what in the room is going to be done, what your homework may be to keep the cost down that you can do or that you want to do. We always encourage people to help with the process, especially if they want to. It all depends on what the outcome is supposed to be, but that communication is so vital to the outcome, especially if we know the move date is July 1st, we have to work backwards. So we know how many days that we have to work. We know what you're going to do, what you expect us to do, and getting to that point. There's no one way to do it.
I'm sure, because everybody's so different, right?
Yeah, there's no one way to do it. And it really depends on where you live, you know, what you have to move, what time frame, your energy level, your emotional, you know, stamina, and I think a lot of times too, the time of year.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going through my list here to make sure we kind of hit all the great topics. Where do we start when we're asked to help with that transition? And in that, so you've come in, we've met, you've got to know me, we've kind of set our game plan down. What happens if, and my box to go is a little too big? So we got our 4 boxes that we've talked about, right? My box to go, I'm just having a hard time putting it in some of these other boxes, which I think we all, I'm sure if I could get everybody to raise their hand out there, are experiencing that.
Boy, what a great question. I usually tell people this is like an onion with layers. And Rome wasn't built in one day. And you didn't put all this stuff in this house in 1 year.
But you're getting it out in a month sometimes, right?
There you go. So you're putting the pressure on because now husband has early stage dementia. You know you can't take care of him anymore. You're pretty much feeling like you're all by yourself. So you're starting to put those things like we say in the box. And I don't know that I encourage that, but this is a great way to explain the categorization phase, which is critical. All right, so let's say you put too much in the box that's going to go to your new home here at Charles E. Smith, at Landau House, right? Mm-hmm. Or Ring House. Either one. Yeah, either one. you already know that you have too much. So you have to literally think in terms of having that lifestyle transition manager in our company do a design, a floor plan.
So you do that. So
Yes.
you can kind of come in
Yes.
and say, okay, here's, because sometimes it's tough, right?
Oh my God.
You see that, whether it's a model or, you know, even an open room, right? You kind of go in and sometimes it looks smaller than what you think, and it's amazing how much you can get in.
Yeah.
And it's, or, like I said, my box is a little too big for the size that I have. So tell me about that design part. That's really interesting.
So when I started my business, the one thing I kept hearing is, my God, how am I, you know, what am I taking? Where is it gonna go? I just can't deal with this. Well, what you do is you set aside the things that you feel would really make home somewhere else. We then take those items, I'm not talking about all the tchotchkes, but that is important, that does play a major role in recreating your home. But we create a floor plan to scale because it's a visual. It shows you, where is that Queen Anne chair gonna be? How is that, how is that sofa gonna fit? And this is probably where we tell you, you can't take 3 sofas. You can only take 1. And when someone sees all of their things in the floor plan to scale, they sleep better at night.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, and then you can say, well, and you can make as many changes as you want. Sorry, this mask is just too big for me. The key here is that you are gonna have enough time to keep making changes, hopefully. If not, it's okay, you can wing it the day of the move and say, I changed my mind, I don't want that chair there, let's swap it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you, I think when you can kind of get that visual. Do you help with things such as, I worked at a community back in Pennsylvania, and we had somebody, they had a rug, they had gotten it on their honeymoon when them and their husband had traveled. He had passed away, but that rug was so important. And looking at other alternatives, like making it into a tapestry for the wall,
Yeah.
or other items along those lines. Tell me a little bit about that, because sometimes I think that really helps when you think, okay, I've got this rug, it's not fitting. It
Right.
doesn't even make sense to make it fit.
Yeah.
Or other items like that, to way to take that memory with me, but maybe not the item.
Let me draw on something and then come back to this.
Okay, great.
A lot of paper is going away, which is a good thing. That'll save trees. But a lot of our clients have photo albums. We're taking those and putting those into CDs. But now, you know, just like she's saying to me, we're talking about a rug. This rug means a lot. Now, we have, as I've mentioned before in our village, experts who are really good, because I can't do everything. I don't want to do everything. But they'll take sections of a rug and frame it. And sometimes the family gets pieces of it. We've done that. We can also...
I love that. That makes it special, because now not only am I taking something with me, but now I've had a chance to give it to my family who probably doesn't want the rug, but they love the memory of it, right? Because it's always been in mom and dad's dining room, and we had so many holidays there, and that brings back a lot of really special memories, but how I get to keep that. That's really, I love that idea.
You know, and something too also for all of you is when you work with someone who's out every day with different people, there are so many things that we collect and learn and share so that you don't feel like you're all alone and it is only just one way and one decision for something. There are many different ways of making a transition, without seeing all your things totally, go by, to landfill. I mean, that's like the last thing, and that's a dirty word to us. But the key here is there's no one way to do it. Reach out and ask, and don't try to do it yourself.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And tell me about, so we kind of talked about the things we're taking, right? So we've kind of gotten there, and sometimes that box is a little big, things that our families, want. And I would expect, since you have such expertise in this world, especially coming into senior living, so we offer obviously meal plans, but we've always had all these kitchen items, right? And so it's kind of helping to think through that sometimes.
Yep.
And I think that's great. So your team can really help go, you don't need the big KitchenAid mixer. You don't need, because you're probably not going to use it because it's got a great culinary program.
Oh my God.
Has a cafe.
Yeah.
And so now you're going, and we do have, I'll tell you, a lot of people who may bring some of their items that are kitchen, but honestly don't use them because they really enjoy the food and participate in, our culinary program. So I think that's really a great option.
And something too.
And sometimes we have a lot of them, right?
Yes.
How many spatulas can anybody have? And I gotta tell you, for somebody who probably has about 20 of them, because I have every size under.
And now color. They're all colored.
Yeah, it's not easy.
And it's not just about the stuff. As I used to say when I spoke years and years ago, it was always, we love the stuff, we hate the stuff, but we have to deal with the stuff.
Right.
And no one is ever really saying you have to get rid of it because you're moving to another community.
And I happened to see somebody here just ask a quick question, so I thought I'd grab it real quick because it is actually one of the topics that I think is important. How do you help somebody? Because I think there's a lot of people also who are like, you know what? I'm ready to make that transition. Sometimes it's way more expensive to almost move items than it is to get rid of and kind of start clean and fresh.
Yep.
But you know what? You can also make a good amount of money because you may want to donate some items to some great charities.
Oh, yeah.
But then talk to me, somebody asked about eBay, selling, auctions. How do you do that? Because sometimes if you're mailing it, it's one thing, but coming to my house is a little different.
This is
Talk to
a
me about
really
that.
good question. I'm glad somebody raised it, and I don't mind talking about it. In my company, we call it liquid estate, and it's because I really dislike throwing things away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even more difficult when you're dealing with someone else's things. So I do want everybody to know in your audience that we do have not just sympathy, compassion about the stuff. But there's a lot. But in the last 2 or 3 years, and particularly with COVID, online selling has just gone crazy. It's awesome. The amount of money that an individual can make selling things is really doing well, extremely well.
So do you help with that then? Would you, do you help a customer?
Mm-hmm.
So, because again, that in and of itself, being somebody who sold a lot of stuff, when I moved here to Maryland last August, we got rid of a lot of items because it was actually more expensive to move it from Pennsylvania. And we had decided, you know what? We're going to get some new items. We're moving into a different house, different look. So
good point.
I found it somewhat overwhelming selling it all. So tell me about how you help somebody with that, because it's a lot.
Now, I've transitioned things as my company matures, and that's a good thing. And people change, the world changes.
Absolutely, every day.
We don't do eBay, but I have a man who's an expert at it. Now, understand that when you sell yourself, it is a full-time job. You really have to know how to keep your item towards the top of the list, because most people start looking and then they give up after a few transactions or entries. So you want to keep your item that you're trying to sell out there in the eyes of the shopper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we don't do eBay anymore. What we now do, And COVID is what's helped this transition is we no longer do estate sales. We used to do estate sales. They did really well, but I got tired of working 7 days a week, every week, every month. So we now do solely auction. And I deal with, well, and it depends. For example, we're on the Eastern Shore, so everything that we're dealing with this particular woman in her large home is going to stay in that area, and we liquidate there, okay?
So you do a live auction or online auction?
Everything, no, right now they're not doing live auctions, they're doing
Okay.
online auctions.
That's what I thought you meant. I
Good
just
point.
wanted to clarify
Yeah,
that, so.
good point, good point. But I assess what it is that they may have, and I get an opinion from the different appraisers and auction houses. That's my duty to the client, our client, and I do all the research, and we do all the transporting to the designated auction house.
Oh, okay.
When those items are sold, we don't take a commission, but I have a research fee for me to do the research to find out who's going to sell it. And I manage all of that. And then when the proceeds come in, everything goes to the individual who's selling those items.
So somebody on here, if they wanted to do that, they could, they don't have to do any of it then. They can really say, here's my item, here, here's all the
Take care of
things
this
I want to
pile.
sell. I don't need to worry about strangers coming to my house. I think many of us have, I can tell you, I my own self worry about that, having a stranger come to my house to pick something up, right?
We have heard the stories.
Yeah.
Not very good stories.
So this is great. That's a really great service because, and I think the online thing as well, as you said, it changes all the time, and really having that expert to help through that process. Because I got to tell you, I've looked at those sites, and just like you said, I get bored after a while. So I see the first maybe 10 items, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
But so how do you keep that item right at the top? I think some, depending on where you do it, you put the B in there and it bumps it, right?
But you have to know. You
Yeah,
have to know
that kind of stuff to
Yeah.
do it. So yeah, that's really great. So I think what if we're planning to move closer to kids but don't know where yet, and kids want some things but don't have homes yet?
Oh my
What's
God,
the
I love those scenarios. That could take a little bit of time, but just to tell you briefly, I think it's great that you want to move closer to your children, but because I don't know you and you don't know me, you can only go by what I've heard, and that is, we love our children, and we want to be with our children as much as we can, but think in terms of, will you really see them more to up and move completely out of what you know best? So really put some thought into that before you move to where your kids are, especially if it's out of state. When you move to be closer to your children, you really have to know what you're going to move to. If you need help, there are senior housing experts. I know two, and they've been a big help to many of my clients, because it's just like when you tried to find your first home, or you went off to college. There's a lot that has to go into that research.
Right.
You have to know what you're moving to. And when you really are trying to figure out what a community can offer you, the community speaks to you differently than they would a professional. You want to be able to have the communication open enough to really know what is that community going to offer you.
Right.
The research is tremendous, but I strongly recommend you do all the research you can before you move out of state to wherever you're going to go. And then the things that you want your children to have is one thing. What the children want is another. But if your children are asking you, Mom, I really like those things, I really want you to give them to me, but I just don't have anywhere to put them, which is part of this question. You have to be I think, really forthright and say, look, you know, this is what it's gonna cost you to store those things, because I will no longer be able to store them because I'm going to a smaller place. Or you're going to have to, think in terms of finding a space in wherever you live at that time to put them in a closet under the bed, or if they're much larger pieces of furniture, it's about storing those things until you have the space as a child to use them. We do a lot of that, believe it or not. And the one other tip I have for everybody out there is when you store things, especially off-site storage, out of sight, out of mind, it can be very, very expensive, particularly if those things are there for several years.
Okay, yeah, so, and I think that, you know, to what you were saying is, you know, I will tell you here at Charles Lee Smith Life Community, we have a lot of people who move here from out of state because their children are here and now they've got that ability to spend time with their grandchildren. I'm sure Greg Smythe, who is our sales counselor on what we call West Campus, which is Landau, Cohen Rosen, and Ringhouse, assisted living, memory care, and independent living. He could probably tell a lot of stories about it on how many individuals move here from New York, from New Jersey, to be closer to their family.
Yeah.
And experience those, I'm going to call them your golden years. I'm not sure that's the term we use anymore, but I think they're amazing times. I love having my parents here with me. I'm not sure living with me. I think a senior living community would be a great location. And I joke with them all the time because they do have a lot of items. And I told them that I was going to do, what's it called? Storage Wars, I think it is. It's on one of those TV shows where you kind of have the storage unit. But I also know, so I have had the pleasure to be able to get some beautiful furniture pieces from loved ones that have marble tops, you know, that are antiques that you just can't buy anymore. So I think to really outweigh at times, you know, yes, it might be expensive, but this is really special to me, and I want somebody in my family to have it, kind of thing. So I think to your point is it's kind of weighing all those pieces to the puzzle as well. Do you work with people who are not planning to move, people who just have too much stuff in their small apartment?
Oh, and that's always a lot of fun.
That's a great question. I think there's probably many of us here.
Yeah. Now, when you choose to stay in your home, good for you, because that can be fun and can make it really a whole new different place. We call that right sizing. Not that the word makes it really all that different, and you don't have to call me and say, I want to be right sized. It's just, you're staying within the home, you're not moving, but what we're doing is and particularly, as we stay in the home doesn't change, we do. So if you want to have more room to maneuver, or you want to go ahead and gift those things to some of the children or neighbors or friends, or whatever the reason is, there's so many reasons. We go in and we wear our designer hat. Or aging in place is something a lot of them may understand. And aging in place is anywhere you live, but it's making the things that are in your home work for you where you're at that time in your life.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, and I think I can tell you, I know that we've experienced even at times, people who've moved into Ringhouse or Rabbit's house on campus and maybe didn't downsize all the way. And so I think have this same experience. So they're living with us, but really after they got there and started living their life, realized, you know, I have too much stuff in here that I really need some help kind of getting it to the right place and doing that. I think we've got a couple questions here.
Cool upon death belongs need to be, I don't understand the question.
Elderly parents who, I'm not sure I understand that question.
When we have someone deceased, we always have a POA, because that gives us the legal right to assist with someone else's things. The POA should know.
And that would be our power of attorney.
Yeah.
To make sure I know, those
Yeah.
are the one things I always work on, is making sure we
Yeah.
define our terms, because I think those are so normal for you and I to
Sorry,
say, so
yeah.
we're good. No problem. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure our audience was aware.
So we work with the individual who has the power to make decisions. And we do a lot with trust attorneys and power of attorneys and other family members, not just the individual. And we do a lot of clearing out of homes so that now the trust can sell the property. It's sort of the same way, the same process, but again, it's customized based on who we're working with.
Okay. Yeah.
And the
Because I know
amount of
that
time.
obviously those are tough times, and,
Yeah.
but yet, you
Yeah.
know, sometimes that happens, and I know we've even found at times individuals who choose to move in with us, but they don't sell their home and still have some items
Yeah.
there that they've had both, happen. So, and somebody said, what about eBay or trying to sell at art dealers? I think there's a lot of different venues out there that individuals have the ability to sell on. So, you know, I think you use an auction house, and there's others who choose, and maybe their family is involved in it, and they're doing things on eBay, or, you know, if you do have art, having an art individual come in and buy those items, I think there's a lot of different ways, obviously, that you can go about that. And so I think it's really, as you said, it's personal.
Oh, my God,
When you're
very.
trying to really understand what's going on out there.
And there's no one reason,
There's questions we haven't answered.
Yeah.
Are there questions we haven't been able to see? I want to make sure that we do answer those.
Believe,
We went there. We went there. Auction house take upward of 50%, we don't get everything.
I don't work with auction houses who take 50%. The average is 25%. And the more expensive, for example, if you take an emerald ring and you know it's gonna fetch $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 at auction, the auction house then decreases the percentage. You know, it goes down as the item becomes more expensive.
Okay.
Right. And all those negotiations are done by me with you in mind to make the most you possibly can. I do want to add one thing. It's really important. I don't want to mislead anybody. I learned very early on that this is a hot topic and everybody wants me to take care of selling their thing. I don't do it for the general public. I only
Right.
do it for the clients, our clients who we've moved.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, Yeah.
It's part of the service you offer
Yes.
that's in there,
Yeah.
that you can offer. Great.
yeah.
And I agree with you. I think that, you know, looking for the right, because again, what I found is sometimes I think we don't even know the price point of items. And so the value of somebody with that expertise, I think like anything, we're paying a little bit of a percentage. But I absolutely understand, you know, obviously we want to earn as many dollars as possible for those items. And, you know, sometimes what I definitely have found, and I'm going to use my husband, where it's something that in his world is really important to him. So all of a sudden the price goes from here to here, even though the value isn't there, right? But to him, it's personal.
Yeah.
And so I think it is working with that expert out there to understand what is the value that makes sense to sell it, get the best dollar for it versus sitting there and not doing that. And again, that's for those who want to sell their items. There's others who, there's a lot of great charitable organizations out there that people really appreciate donating to and supporting in the community. So I think those are other great ways. Obviously, you know, consult your tax individual when it comes to how that works from a tax perspective. But I do know that's something that I've started to really spend a lot of my energies doing, is donating those items as well.
Yeah, I was going to say a couple of tips that I can offer to some of you, if you would like to hear them, is get generous. In other words, you know, start thinking about really what you have, you know, if you have a few hours in the day and you have a fresh, clear mind, and walk through and know, you know, you're not gonna take everything. So start giving some things away, just like you were saying. You know, it's about charity, it's about, friends. I personally would send certain things to my 3 boys. I don't know if they really liked getting the packages, but I did. Because eventually it's all gonna have to go. So it's the most wonderful feeling to give something to somebody that you think that they would like from you. The other thing is use it up and don't move it. So all these canned goods that people have, or frozen food, start thinking about using that stuff up. So first of all, it doesn't have to be thrown away. Number 2, we don't have to deal with it, even though we use a food bank. And there are times of the year that it's better to donate to these food banks than other times. But, you know, you bought it, you might as well enjoy it because you paid for it.
And I will say on that note, because I've been doing this my own self, and so when I start to see, I think the Boy Scouts will do it, different organizations,
yeah.
where they'll leave the bag on your mailbox to donate. That is always my sign to say, time to clear out my cabinet and start to do it that way.
Yeah.
My son's prom this past weekend, because they canceled it, and so all the parents stepped up to put on a prom, and the only fee that was charged for somebody to come in is you had to bring cans for the food bank.
Oh, that was
so
wonderful.
It was really a great way for the children to give back. I cleared out my cabinet, and it really was, again, a great way to kind of just slowly start doing that.
You know, and I think it's your content level too. The one thing we take in consideration when we're working with someone and making this move, first of all, our mantra is we make moves stress-free. And there's a reason for everything we do. We don't explain everything, but it's just the way we move through a move. If you start early, you're going to end up being happy. And it's so easy to go into a room, and rather than just look at all 4 walls and what's in there, just look at the one wall in that room and say, I'm not going to take this. You know, you may have a wardrobe hanger outside of the closet with a bunch of clothing on it. Maybe they're all size 6 that you haven't worn in many years, but you know that maybe if I keep them, I'll get back there and I'll wear that size 6. You can go through those clothes so quickly and say, I think it's time to let go of these. And get them to a place where women will use those things rather than just a charity, or give them to your friends. But look at that one wall and address, as I say, life-sizing that section of that room.
Makes sense.
And you're not...
And I feel like you just spoke to me, because I have that in my closet. I have that size 2 to size 14, and so I have a section I probably need to clear out. So somebody just said on here, my late husband was a watercolor artist. He made 10 to 15 copies of his painting and can't throw the extra copies away. What can I do with them? So I'm going to just share with you, and I want some ideas from you as well. I can tell you that one of the things that we've encouraged at times, there are different things that senior living communities may want to have. They could be in an art room, things, and I'm using that specifically as an example. But we've also had where we've had, again, depending on the community, depending on the needs of that community, is there something that somebody has that would really engage the rest of the community? So it could be a piano.
Oh, those are common.
And, and they're kind of big. And there's a lot of people who don't want them, right? Because nobody in the family, if somebody said to me, Deanna, I've got a piano for you, I'd be like, you can't see my face. It went, what am I gonna do with that?
But art is smaller, and it's funny that.
But there's a lot of organizations who need them.
Yeah, and I was
love
gonna say, you know, I don't know where you are or what your lifestyle is, but you may want to, frame a few of them, take them to, you know, to a community. Oh my God, so they don't have to pay for the art if you want to give them away. They would hang those up.
And it's something really special, a community member who painted these items. So I think there's a lot of really great places that you can look at those.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I cannot believe it's 1 o'clock already. We've just been talking away here and the time has just flown by. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. We did record this, as well as, and somebody just had a good idea there, schools and organizations that do benefit galas with auction baskets. It's another great thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I personally love going to those. The next one, what we will have is financial power of attorney. That is in 2 weeks. So please join us June 9th. So it's a great topic, a really important topic for everybody to really talk about and look at. So we'll have an expert here to talk with us a little bit about that. And we're excited to have you continue to join us. We hope that the information and tips were helpful today. We will have a recording of it. Again, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to put them in. We will follow up with you after the meeting as well. So we will go back through to make sure we answered questions. And if not, we'll get back in touch with you. If you have any questions about Charles E. Smith Life Communities, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We're here to assist you. We're here to assist you with your journey. So even if we are not your journey, although I think we're an amazing place, we want to help all of you through whatever journey you're going through and help guide that path for you. So thank you again so much for joining us today at Charles E. Smith Life Communities. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks at our next session. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the weather.
Bye, everybody.